Okay, so I was just out hitting some balls today on the flight scope because I've gotten this question, actually got the question yesterday from one of the Facebook group members, the Sam Goulden Clubhouse Facebook group members, was asking about how to hit the low spinning shot. And it's kind of a long conversation, so this is actually going to be a two-part video. But first I just want to talk about how the square-to-square swing works to actually produce these impact alignments that can potentially produce the low spinning shot. And then in part two, I'm going to talk about how different balls can actually, or why we can choose from a different ball and what we should be looking at when we're choosing our golf ball. And really, if this shot is even possible with certain golf balls. So part one, how to hit the low spinning shot. Essentially, you just have to have two things. You have to have ideal impact conditions, which means that the club is striking the ball with no grass or dirt or mud in between the club face and the ball. So that grass and dirt and mud in between the club face and the ball is what's going to keep your ball from getting a lot of friction, which is kind of part two of this. If you have a lot of friction at impact, meaning the ball and the club face actually kind of grab and stick to each other a little bit, that's where you're going to create the most spin or impart the most spin on the golf ball. So it's not necessarily the grooves per se, but it's the amount of time that the cover can stick to the golf club as you're coming through impact. So in the square-to-square swing, we're presetting the impact alignments. We're having the handle forward, our weight's a little bit forward, and as we go back, we're keeping the face square to the arc or to the path on which the club is traveling, and then we're just sort of trying to repeat that same path through impact. And what that's going to hopefully do for us is get us an impact alignment that doesn't have the club scooping through the grass before it reaches the ball. And that's important because if my club goes through a bunch of grass on its way to the ball, it's actually going to trap grass in between the club face and the ball, which will reduce friction. And again, friction is what we want. So our impact alignment that's going to produce the most amount of friction, the most amount of spin, and also in turn the lowest launch angle, because we've got a little less loft on the club as we're coming through impact with these ideal impact alignments or the square-to-square impact alignments. We're coming through impact with less loft on the club because the handle's leaning slightly forward, and then the club, because it's not flipping or standing straight up through impact, it's not interacting with any grass before it hits the ball. So it's actually still on its way down when it comes into the ball, meaning it avoids going through grass on its way to the ball, which then obviously in turn doesn't put any grass in between the club face and the ball, which then gives us the most amount of friction we can possibly have at impact. So that's how the impact and the square-to-square swing kind of works to produce the best impact alignments, which will then produce this low spinning shot. But all of that can only be achieved if you've got a golf ball that can produce that, if you've got wind conditions that can produce that, and if you've got green conditions that can produce that. So that's what part two of this video is about, or part two of this kind of two-part video series is about. It's about how the ball needs to fit the situation. The ball, the wind, the green, all these things have to kind of be perfect for this shot to actually be pulled off.